start from our audience here tonight. We're going to have three exceptional poets reading tonight. We've got Dan Curley, Bertha Rogers, and Bernadette Mayer. We're going to start off with Dan Curley. Dan had something of a troubled youth in that he grew up loving Greek mythology, and that became a gateway drug to Latin, which turned him into a serial classicist. He's been a professor in the classics department at Skidmore for over 20 years. He recently started writing his own poetry, which is very engaging and wonderful work, and he is here with his first book called Conditional Future Perfect. And let's hear a huge round of applause for our very special audience for Dan Curley.
Thank you, Carol. I'm honored to be here. It's a real privilege. So I'll just read some poems from the volume. We'll start off small. This is called The Continental Breakfast. While she brushed her teeth, I said, "Look for an apple up to your standards. If they have such an apple, please bring that apple to me. If they have a breakfast sausage sandwich, bring me a breakfast sausage sandwich, and forgo the apple. If you should do this for me, I would call you Goody, which is short for good wife." I proceeded to nuzzle her neck. She closed her eyes as though asking, "How the hell did this happen?" Thank you. Let's see. Move over to page 13. This is called E.G. I've been less wasteful of late, reusing minor items of plastic such as forks, realigning entire categories such as those whose rubric is waste, under which rubric used to reside the dirt on my hands, henceforth to be called soil in recognition of its vitality, its necessity. The foothill soil is fine and fertile and ferrous, imparting mineral essence to my food, such as a sandwich, when I neglect to wash my hands after working the soil. The water can be conserved for something more useful, such as soaking the garden beds whose soils produced both food and flowers, which are under the rubric nourishment. The former nourish my body, the latter my eyes, which are not under the rubric body, but belong to a category to be determined, one including all of the things that drive my woman wild, such as a proper pasta bolognese, teeth grazing the ridge of an ear, soil on my hands. Thanks. All right, let's try this one. It's called The Star Wars. Not for nothing am I a child of the 70s. I used to holler, "What's new, Magoo?" and give some part of your person a tweak. It was charming until it wasn't, until it was again, ad nauseam, like some Finns we used to know who couldn't get a handle on the definite article, ever asking, "Were we going to the Star Wars?" or phoning hours late to say they were stuck on the Aurora, which avenue was, fair enough, in those days, nowhere nobody wanted to be, not even seasoned Scandinavians grown up among hash bars and needle parks. Their strangeness was a nudity they covered with extraneous syllables, each the skimpy preserver of modesty, a thong, hiding pudenda, or tendering straps from low-rise jeans to assure all of the America, we are here, we come in peace. All right, how about, yes, this one is called Letters to Laportinari. If we're ever allowed to travel again, and you've never been to Florence, I hope that you'll get a chance to go and see the Church of Dante and Beatrice, which has, well, as the poem describes, letters written to Beatrice. This is written in a terza rima, and as a sort of fun fact, I was drinking a beer called terza rima when I wrote it. Letters to Laportinari. The Church of Margherita dei Cerchi has baskets overflowing with epistles to Beatrice. It might seem kind of jerky to rummage through them as I did, but this'll make up for my transgression. I would rather be made to eat a tiramisu of thistles than violate the secrets of a lover. I'd never touch a letter folded tightly, but those I did were easy to discover, their pages introverted only slightly, or not at all, the better for a nosy flaneur of middle age to treat them lightly. One of these seemed a boy's request. I suppose he was such, if not a hipster with an earring, or else a lax bro, waxing proud and prosy. committed to the paper after hearing of Dante's love for Bee, a reverie worth rehearsing for its honesty so searing. Dear lady, what's being dead like? You're kind of famous now because of your ex-lover. If I could have a happy and long life, that would be cool. Signed, Mike. Oh, Beatrice, who gaze upon this crude earth, is he a genius or is he a wanker? Would you in life have given him a wide berth or married him instead of daddy's banker? Let's see. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Here's something from my childhood which shows you that academic pedantry begins quite early. A story from the 7th grade. It's called The Chronicles of Yolanda. Do a time check. Oh, wow. Okay, The Chronicles of Yolanda. In the 7th grade, Yolanda reported on the magician's nephew. She brought the children to the pool's edge, the brink of ruddy Charn and the cruel queen's palace. They were about to jump into the pool, she said, when they heard a lion's roar. It frightened them, but with help from a talking owl, they escaped from Narnia and made it back safe to London. She really enjoyed this book. Oh, Yolanda, you came to our school in the 6th grade, and you weren't there in the 5th, when Miss Cooper read to us, planted Narnia in our imaginations. She tabulated Aslan and raised him up. She made all of the horses take wing. I told Yolanda I thought she was a beautiful faker. But Bridget was having none of it. This was Robert Louis, the Sun, and a totally different book, so I should shut my stupid face. If you see Yolanda, please tell her she owes a book report. Mention how the way of academia is to purchase redemption at cost. Tell her I ought to know. Thank you. Let's see. The middle of the book has a travelogue section inspired by some traveling that I've been lucky enough to do in Italy. One of the benefits of being a classics professor is that you get to take students places, if not to museums, then to other countries. So here is a poem that took place on the plane in one of the last few trips when I've been lucky enough to take students to Rome. I got to go first and do a little bit of scouting. It's called The Art Historian's Revenge, and it's more or less a true story. I ought to become a talk show host. I think I'd be good. It took only 5 minutes for the art historian in the seat next to mine to spill her guts. She said the last time she'd been to the Vatican, her husband took her by the hand on a bench in the Cortile della Pina and proposed divorce. And this after a day of her playing tour guide and leading him from beautiful thing to beautiful thing, and finally to beauty itself, only to exit the tacky gift shop of truth. Soon she'd revenge herself twice over, on the papacy with a prestigious grant, and on her ex with a fiancé due to arrive 3 weeks from now. I took her card. I had mine printed years ago, but forgot them as usual. I never expect to meet anybody, I said. What else can we read? Here is a poem written in Sapphic strophes, which is a meter from the ancient world. Horace, the ancient poet Horace, was fond of them. They're distinctive because there are 3 lines of the same meter that repeat, and then you get a little closure to the stanza, which sounds like dum-diddy-dum-dum. Shave and a haircut, or maybe as the British would say, strawberry jam pot. I'm told that's what they say. So when you hear the dum-diddy-dum-dum, you know that the stanza is over. Pierre was a mentor of mine, so this is written in his memory. This Pierre was not what I wanted. Pithy, elegiac sentiment, clipped and mannered. You're too big for that. You were always too big, bursting with data, like the office that barely held your projects, which I helped you clear. In a nondescript box was the world's first Arabic font on punch cards, tossed in the trash bag, with a shrug. Oh well. When we made papyrus and arranged the strips perpendicularly, We concealed them under the heavy plaster, Venus de Milo, inattentive to the Seattle climate and the reek. They say you went gently, eyes closed over Sunday's crossword, without so much as dropping your pencil. Here's a poem about Howard Nemerov, who I only ever saw because when I was a student at Washington University in St. Louis, he was sort of on the faculty at WashU, but he had sort of retired from being poet laureate by that time and just lived in University City. So I would see this old man walking around through the stacks of the University City Library and sort of smiling at me. I don't quite know why he did that, but it was only years later I found out it was actually Howard Nemerov. So this is a poem called Uncovering Howard. It seems to me now that Howard Nemerov was pulling the strings all along. He used to bait me in graduate school, sneaking around and putting poems in my line of sight, like the time he took To a Scholar in the stacks and stuck it up on a shelf end at the University City Library, knowing the classical references would hook me first try. I saw him there often, a jean-jacketed hobo who'd nod and smile at me in passing, waiting for me to catch on. Meanwhile, there was that retrospective of his time as P. Laureate, which showcased some of his original manuscripts, typed up on butcher's paper, memoirs of commentary he was obliged to provide on, say, Casey at the Bat, a resilient bit of doggerel, I think he called it. I finally put face to name at my commencement, where he was an honored guest and read a poem. He winked at me as I crossed the stage. No, he handed me my diploma, clapping me on the back with those hoary Russian mitts. Howard never died that year, as was reported. Rather, he followed me from city to city. He cut our baby's umbilical cord and later settled an insurance claim in our favor after the accident outside the house. I know he folds my undershirts and leaves through my chapbooks when I'm not around. He clears the cache on my browser. I'd find him in the attic with a cup of coffee right now if I bothered to throw open the door. But why ruin a good thing? Destroy the reputation of being dead he's worked so hard for. A quarter century's a long time to be away, but formalism's a bitch like that, then as now. Do a time check. What time is it, Carol?
You've got about 7 or 8 minutes.
Okay, just keep going. It's taking less time than I thought. Yes. Why don't we go to something called Tangential. It's the first poem in the book. I go off on tangents, my wife says, but I prefer to call them lateral thinking in action. How else would I have remembered the pork chops were left in the car, if not for our starveling child making BLTs for lunch? Sure, there's something to the family motto, when a task is once begun, never leave it till it's done. But now here's the cat, tossing me come-hither looks, rubbing her cheek and ear against the doorframe. How essential to run my fingers through the fur, over the arching back and up the victory column of the tail. My wife says I've been on tangents ever since I came out of the womb. I say being born was the tangent. I've made a life of trying to get back to what I was doing before that. All right. Let's find one that features my daughter. My daughter is a poet herself, and she likes being in my poems, unlike other people I know. Let's see. Keep that one on hold. Irish Wake for Pierre Mackay. Well, I can't find it right now. That's okay, though. I'll read something called, I'll see if I can find my daughter's poem in a second. Toward a Grammar of Death. This is written like an encyclopedia entry. Again, this is sort of what you get when you get a classicist writing poems. It's written like a grammar book. So there will be some examples. I'll sort of hold up my hand when I'm using a grammatical example. And there's also a few see-alsos as well, as if this were an actual encyclopedia. Toward a Grammar of Death. A, noun phrases. Death, usually subject. Death is inevitable. Death comes to us all. Some make death an object. See also Jesus, celebrity. as indirect object infrequent. Following the cotillion, Marie consigned Francois to death. Death is possessive, the hand of death, at death's door. Possession of death, obsolete. B, verbs. To die in any sense is plausible. The future is preferable. I will die, you will die, they will die. Modals often negatived. I can't let you die, I won't. To die is active. The passive is judged to be dead. The subjunctive might be dead. The gerund is dying. C, syntax. Death as abstraction. In usage, unambiguous, prone to vocatives, irrational imperatives. "Oh, death, pass over me," cried the plummeting aviator. Fluency is not competency. Isolating structures, complex sentences. Should death be subordinated, the condition is temporary. See also alchemy, Eurydice. All right, daughter, where did you go? Well, can't find it yet, but here's a poem called Yes. My calendar says yesterday was our anniversary, not of us getting married, but of us getting together. 28 years to the day you answered my ironic, seductive letter, reading which would nowadays pitch me from a bridge, with a note of yours that said, in essence, yes. We neither of us knew then what this would entail, how just one yes leads to others and becomes habitual, which habit ought to be broken with a judiciously placed no, that the next yes mean more than go ahead. I've been puzzling over what separates one epinician poet from another, how each might design an anniversary card. Bacchylides would show a swarthy Syracusan driving a 4-horse chariot to victory on the outside. Happy anniversary, crazy kids, on the inside. Pindar would also say happy anniversary, but show Prometheus bound, the eagle gorging on what's left of his liver. Yes, a classicist's idea of a love poem. Okay. Carol, how much time do I have?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay, 2 minutes. Yikes.
Well, it's fluid.
I know it's fluid, but I don't want to hog the mic. Oh, let's see. Where is it? I just need the page number because I know what it's called. There it is, page 61. A poem called Blindsided, which I feel... This is the poem about my daughter, and it feels like I'm blindsided because of the lights. Little spots on the page. Fellow readers, be careful. All right, Blindsided. I'm sorry, former student, for saying I was pleased to meet you, for not remembering you as I should. In my defense, you missed a lot of class. I checked my ledger. And you were quiet, not to mention my nominal aphasia, or that the time I was your professor was a time I'd like to forget. Nothing to do with you, I should add. But the plain truth is, you were sitting next to my child, who long ago reft me of peripheral vision and left me a heliomaniac, eyes only for the sun. And I think I'll stop there. Thank you very much. Thank you, Carol.
All right, thank you, Dan. Let's hear it for Dan one more time. That was wonderful. You can find his book, Conditional Future Perfect, on Amazon if you'd like to purchase that. Also, there's a tip jar on the YouTube channel, which you can click on, or on the Caffe Lena website, and anything you donate tonight is going to be split between our 3 poets and the cafe, so we all appreciate that. If you feel up to doing that, that's wonderful. Our next poet up is going to be Bertha Roger. She co-founded Bright Hill Press and Literary Center of the Catskill in 1992, which is an impressive, vibrant literary center. They do workshops and events and readings. There's a press, so that alone is extremely impressive. Her work also appears in literary journals. Her poetry books are Wild Again, which I believe is her newest book. She has Heart Turned Back and Sleeper You Wake, as well as other chapbooks of poetry. So let's give a warm round of applause from our vast audience here for Bertha Rogers.
Thanks, Carol. I'm going to read from two books tonight. One is Heart Turned Back, and the other is Wild Again. This first poem is called The Cornfield. I hard walked into the green sea daily, into the damp center on the black bottom soil, where the corn started up each night, restless every night. I stood, crowded, fighting for air, confused by disappearing crows and the feel of leaves on my skin, my dissolving skin. I was drowning in the corn. I was up to my chin, and I was drowning, and no human was there, but the prairie wind, the big blue wind, was blowing everywhere, all the time, through time. And the wind, the flat blue wind, sighed, covered me, took my air, closed me. Then I drowned in the green corn. In the dark green corn, under the black loam, is where I drowned. This poem is called For the Girl Buried in the Peat Bog. She always walks the dark world, head skewed to the cry of some sorrowing bird, left arm outflung, right enfolding the birch branches that arranged her death. They blinded her with a band woven from the colors of fire and sun and soil. They led her to shallow waters and made her lie down. They laid a plain stone over her nakedness. Her eyes closed from the force of color, and her face, delicate, forever 14, forgot her lover, found in the long violence before dying the expression of light. Deliver her, sight restored, to her northern gods. Let this child's body grow back into the earth. Eyes rest on luminescent roots, her final darkness. Thank you. This poem is called The Fourth Beast, and it has an epigraph from the book of Daniel. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly. She stood at the window, elbows bent, plotting nothing. The world had changed, light edged to inference. Still serene, listening, she later claimed, for the tree frog's song, the odd howl of a coy dog. She saw two great eyes streaming out of the gloom. When questioned, she faltered. She saw something, a red tail, a pulsing vein. The thing seemed to reel down her hill. Who encroached that smoking land, rode her soil so easily? She ached. The creature halted, lurched forward, and the woman said to the landing, now I must go out of light, but her feet would not lift, could not shuffle. In the morning, she effortlessly handed the blackness back to the window, which took it. I'm sorry, lost my place here. Oh, darn. Okay. Evening entered its sultry touch. An interval. Had time slipped? A voice, plain, friendly. At that, she insisted her own voice woke. Ask, how could 2 feet gripped by floorboards rouse the beast? Glare gunned at glass. A laugh from beyond the screen. High night again. The animal crouched in his grim tower. He had leapt up, she was sure, from earth's cluttered crust. Sight pointed at her breast. She turned and tensed and listened, heard no more. The blaze had gone. Wait, she called. I'm coming. This poem is called Jay and Father in Winter. There, a stellar jay in a blue sky above a hard river, and clinging to the creature's back, a woman. What's left but descent? So the jay flies free, and the woman she sees lights on white ice where her dead father waits. We know how this ends. The specter withdraws. The woman knocks on every frozen tree in the forest. The jay squawks maledictions from his perpetual sky. Her father leaves again, that bird evicting him. And worse, the woman can't recover those auspicious wings. Thank you. I live in the Catskills where hunting is an important thing that goes on in the fall. And this is based on a true story in Sullivan County. It was a man and his friends and his son were out hunting, and he accidentally shot his son. And so this poem is called Survivor, and it's in the voice of the remaining son. Survivor. He shot movement, November branches, but the dark he got was my brother, his son. When he saw what he had done, my father used his gun again to join the dead. My mother and I stare at opposite walls, across forests of dumb furniture. Our home's halls are treacherous. My brother's heart, father's mouth detonate as we pass. Mother is constant in her mourning. Through the kitchen window she sees black trees, sets the wooden table each night for 4. Launders father's hunting jacket each week. I tend our fields. I have no father, brother. All I survey belongs to me. This poem is called Holy Beast. Once I was part of a holy beast. I was a dog, a bear, a horse. I was the leader and the dragging led. My fur was both sleek and shaggy, black and white. I was as tall as a stallion, long-maned yet bony, as deep-withered as a dog. I barked and I whinnied, I growled. I cantered and I loped, I lumbered. This was before I was born, before I slid from the cave, where I was hailed, then demeaned for my unnatural cries. I rose up, red dog, spinning rain, swirling band of pink. At last they knew me in my corner. The words they gave left. I barked again. To the heart. I have taken up residence in the bear's black body. The bear's heart has devoured mine. I, all my thumping, am diminished, and the bear grows bigger. His seething face has absorbed all the day's light. His clawed paws are as turbulent as electricity at night. Heart, the sunflowers have been extinguished by hurled rays, and I am dead to the day. They told me I would discover morning, but here it is always night, though the walls be red and flowing. Blood moves, genome smart, but knowing not of itself, all its body sequenced and paginated, though thwarted, booked, and shelved. The bear refuses to read the pages I was, spits me out. The blinded blinds move like flattened smiles in air's carried currents. Crows pick out, lay down words between lights, molten lines. Never forget you. Never forget your thronged face, they cry. The bear is silent, his viral eyes red hot. Thank you. And in the mountains, of course, and all through upstate New York, everybody sees these, is pretty familiar with the red-tailed hawks. This poem is called Hawk's Reason. When the hawk leaves his tree for movement among the green, when he aims earthward, the air opens for him as if sliced by a deft knife, space disappearing into time's aperture. The nosing gray vole, knowing she will cease, sharply screams twice. The hawk flexes lightning bright talons, his wings broadcast intent, close and break like thunder, dimming June's new blades. When the hawk's blazing claws wreathe the vole's rolling body, his gleaming beak arcs toward the fleet heart, and blood's first, deepest drop drops through blue. The whole sky opens, blameless and distinct. When I moved upstate from New York in 1989, in the spring of that year, my kids helped me and some friends, and we planted 1,000 spruces. And now they're 40, 50, 60 feet tall. So this is about that planting. Planting wildness. The stooped and swaying labor that planted 1,000 seedling spruces is not wasted. Immediately they take to the mountain. In 7 days, and as if they were native to this thin earth, they display bright, wild needles from the tips of their fingers. While you wane, the trees increase, their bodies adding arms, adding digits. In 10 years, they attain a giant's height. 15 years, and there is no trace of the meadow that tried to choke their roots. The sun's light cannot penetrate their density. Birds nest, bears test their circumference. You, remembering the old tame slope, avert your eyes as you enter. Walk cautiously among spiraling branches. This is the reason you lift your head off the pillow each morning. You go willing to sleep every night, even when the bleakness is hard upon you. Thank you. Thank you. And this is one day my husband was driving down the road. It was the middle of the day, and he came right back and he said, "You've got to see this." And I went down with him, and there was a great horned owl that had been out hunting and had caught a muskrat, had ripped the head off, but the owl had been hit by a car. So this is about that experience. On the road, this owl raptured after this muskrat, seized, ripped off this bony November day, the water rat's greasy head. And did that rat grasp what great angel had taken his body up, eyes riding past hooked blue beak, beneath roof arched like a church's, and down mortality's red craw? A car wheeling south completed the act, ravished the owl right out of sight. Better than sex, this aborted hunt, more satisfying than owning the wish, granted love. The diurnal abuses wreaked upon each other, better than mercy, better balancing all, this blinding end, glinting, quick death. And the last poem I'll read is called Disconnect, It's a Villanelle. Once, I don't remember the exact day, can't call back the lone instant, but his words still speak, then slip away through lips that open and sway over white teeth, his deep voice urgent. Once, I don't remember the exact day, his eyes awash in tears, gray, were one man's closing comment. His words still speak, then slip away. It is as if love always meant to stray from its sweet home, turn vagrant. Once, I don't remember the exact day, the summer swallows flew away and upthrust branches went silent. But his words still speak, then slip away, rising up, Nothing more to say. We dusted off, divided, strange new quotient. Once, I don't remember the exact day, but his words still speak, then slip away. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bertha. Let's hear it for Bertha again. Gotta love a villanelle. Our last poet for the evening is this is the world premiere of her new haircut, so that's exciting. We have Bernadette Mayer's newest book was originally created in 1971 and displayed in a gallery. It's a series of photographs and journal entries for a month that was originally a gallery show and has had different iterations, and now it's a book complete with all the pictures and the writing that went along with it. And it just recently got a nice write-up in the New Yorker saying that it's particularly good for these times, for the quarantine. It's gotten a lot of readership from that, and that it really speaks to these times. And that's Bernadette's gift. She's a wonderful literary mind. She has 27 collections of work. She has won several awards. I've been lucky enough to take workshops with Bernadette, and she is wonderfully trippy and affectionate with everyone, and a great workshop leader. Let's give her a warm welcome, Bernadette Mayer. It's gonna take her a while to get to the stage. Yeah. So, in the meantime, how's everyone doing? Yeah, it's really nice to have you guys here. Yeah, the lights are very bright, and it's I think poets especially, bright lights are hard for us.
Yeah, I was having trouble with the page initially because the spots.
Yeah, we're used to dark corners. Yeah. Yeah, and Bernadette read here a few years ago when we first opened up for a renovation, and we had a great turnout. She got a great audience response. And this is her first reading since the shutdown in March, so it's very special. Bernadette Mayer.
This is called Current Events. It's a cool, cloudy day in August, at the end of August. I wonder if any cop is shooting a black person right now. Is there an app for that? For revenge, if you're into that, maybe black people should shoot cops, all cops. That's very biblical, an eye for an eye, etc. But the cops haven't shot all black people yet. How many do you think are left? I don't have the coronavirus yet. You know, that pink ball with the ornate weeds sticking out of it? Maybe it's a sort of gazing ball in which I see wildfires all over California, ruining everybody's life if they still have one. You know, parts of some people's lives have snapped off and stay in the canopy, threatening you if you dare to visit, like you could get arrested for having this virus, as in Venezuela. But don't worry, it fell down. and is languorously leaning against the tree or person it was once part of. But don't get me wrong, it's a mess here. See, please, there's no place to go. And the U.S. president makes it seem like he'll do even more damage to the country and the world if he doesn't win the free election. So, I guess, get out your fallout shelters and prepare to rise from the dead again, because Sunday you can wear your fancy clothes to the post office, but we can't go in. Outside, we'll have oysters and raspberries and make lists of all the most important things in life, like ice, and then send them to anybody whose address you know by heart, which also goes in an envelope, and figure that's your last will and testament, and then go make a beautiful painting in a cave signed with a handprint. I told my daughter I'd read this poem, and since it's an election year, I think I have to. It's called To a Politician. Your penis is homeless. You are covered with as many warts as the lives you've told. You pat maggots on their backs. Your syphilitic mouth sucks the slugs from the irradiated cocks of your cohorts. This gives a bad name to syphilis, if I mention it in relation to you. Your asshole farts from the overeating of civilian casualties. The toxic fingernails of your leprous hands flip through the reports of your medievally botulistic bubonic policies. Your brain is full of lice, tickling it with greed for pesticidish power. Cockroaches fill your pancreas with their eggs, but this is an insult to cockroaches. Your lungs fill with the blood of the dead. Poisonous snakes of freedom crawl into your every orifice, but to no avail. Spiders come out of your nose. Your heart is being pinched by Lyme disease ticks, stung by killer bees, bitten by the rattlesnakes of prevarication. First thing every morning, your gangrenous arms embrace the rabid turds of your generals. Your penis is the size of the junkie's needle. Your nostrils resemble the assholes of cops. It seems to us you convert your farts into speeches. Your disease-ridden mouth is full of the incurable sores of your lies. Your petrified eyes eat the bulimic vomit of your violent words, all humans, insulted, disgusted by your depraved existence. That is some kind of wasp, a killer wasp that also looks like a giant bee. It should be in that poem, but isn't. The Lobelias of Fear. There are maple trees, 1, 2, 3. But wait, there's 5 more. 2 behind the bungalow, and lots in the poetry state practice from far away. It's probably for shooting deer, bears, and dinosaurs. But how will we, still alive, socialize in the winter? Wrapped in bear skins, we'll sit around pot-bellied stoves eating the Lobelias of Fear left over from desperation. Last summer's woodland sunflowers and bee balm remind us of black cherry eaten in a hurry. while the yard grows in the moonlight, shrinking like a salary or a damaged item when we return in the morning for a breakfast of harvest petunias sprinkled with wild marshmallow. It's hard to even look at the idiot president and his hairdo. Nobody knows what it's like, what it is. Like this pandemic, is it all a hoax? If everything were a hoax, stuff you didn't like, I'd guess you'd eat skinny, greasy hamburgers in bed out of a machine that dispenses skinny, greasy hamburgers to make you greasy and fat with a hairdo that not only isn't yours, but nobody knows what it is, like time or something. Or maybe the hair-like covering of an untrustworthy armadillo or monster of some sort gone to seed. I always thought it was good to get dirty, and later dirty as in sex too, but then eventuated the coronavirus hand washing. I was old, so I washed my hands, but what about my fingernails? There's a science fiction movie hidden under there with Angie Dickinson and Emily Dickinson. Why is it that color? Maybe it's the virus we randomly chose for last year's flu, or a dot of the earthquake we'll get for Christmas along with a crescent moon, or a half moon like the bottom of my nail. I am taken about your actual fish, but for me, to eat has been ruined by the Catholic Church. For that host to be a body and then to swallow it is enough to ruin swallowing and hunger forever, Mr. Jesus Christ, especially when your servants put their cocks in my mouth. Sometimes I can't read that in the slide. Mr. and Mrs. Dandelion. There was a cessation of mowing to allow the dandelions to grow. Then anger stirred the pandemic like moss. But no, mosses get no angrier than water bears. This archegonium vocabulary is full of love. The anger stirred the pandemic like a president. There was a giant tardigrade on Star Trek. To deadhead is to Trumphead. I say, not always asking why we need more flowers, as in the sudden sinkhole opening in Waterford. The additional crumbling is also a presidential thing. Moss is a gentle thing. It also eats pollutants. Who cares about pollutants when there's a pandemic? Everyone, I hear, has changed back to their robes of blossoms Oh, you, my sleeves of moss, could you not at least get us a new empathetic chief executive, a moratorium on rent and homes for everyone, the release of non-violent prisoners, violets for all, the burying of guns, and some prickly pear cactus candy all around. Prickly pear cactus candy is really great. This is just to say, Alice is home. The coffee cup had coffee and water in it. The portulaca plant has sent a flower on into the ground. It is firmly rooted. The lobelia looks happy. I wish there had been plums in the refrigerator. There wasn't any mail in the refrigerator. I mean, the mailbox. We should get the tree fixed or move our socializing spot over to the lilac bush. Okay, I'm going to end with this one. The De-Densifying of 3 trees. On July 4th, a tree in the Poetry State Forest flew out like a firecracker, making noise, too. It had been holding up half the deer blind and suddenly let go. Now lies waiting as the firewood for next year, while later Hurricane Isaiah crossed our paths and cracked one of Alice's pristine locust trees and, too, a maple of ours, one branch now horizontally into the next door maple, but will not fall, but don't stand underneath. We better move our space for socializing, unless it's a space for branches to fall on your head, like a tent has spiders, like a shower has mushrooms and katydids. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bernadette Mayer.
You're welcome.
You guys want to give one more round of applause for Bernadette? So Bernadette Mayer has a website, bernadettemayer.com, bertharogers.com. If Dan Curley, if you Google his name, his book will come up. So please support these poets. You can donate to the Chip Jar to support the poets and Caffe Lena. We're going to be back here on Wednesday, October 7th with Andy Clausen, Sarah Giragosian, and Jordan Smith. So that's going to be another great night of poetry. Yeah, let's hear it for those 3 poets coming up. Leave your comments in the chat section. It's really fun and gratifying to read them afterwards. I think we're all set, right, Bernadette? Anything else?
Yeah.
Okay. Have a good night. Thanks for tuning in.